journey begins in the heart of a small town, where the past lingers in the air like an unshakable shadow. Narrow streets, lined with old, tightly packed houses, whisper secrets of generations long gone. The architecture, steeped in tradition, stands firm against the tides of time, brick by aged brick. The town's church, towering above the rooftops, casts a watchful eye over the people below. Its bells toll, marking the hour, their echoes carrying through the crisp morning air. Life moves at a steady pace here, a marketplace bustling with eager voices bartering, exchanging goods, exchanging glances. The scent of freshly baked bread mingles with the sharp tang of morning dew. Beyond the shops, a hospital looms, a place where hope and despair dance in an endless waltz. The roads are alive with motion, a mix of hurried footsteps and the occasional growl of an engine. But something feels off. There's a tension beneath the surface, an unease lingering at the edges of sight. As we push forward, leaving the center of town behind, the scenery shifts. The streets widen, more cars rush past, tires rolling over asphalt, headlights flashing. Pedestrians weave between moving vehicles, their faces blurred by speed and distance. The noise grows louder, engines revving, horns blaring. A storm of movement, yet an eerie stillness clings to the edges. Then something changes, the town fades behind us, swallowed by the horizon. In the distance, rolling hills rise, their vast green slopes stretching toward the sky like ancient sentinels. Each peak and valley connected, an unbroken chain of nature's design, but their beauty is deceiving. They stand as both a barrier and a threshold, marking the edge of familiarity. The road stretches onward, flanked by fields of tall grass swaying in the wind. The world opens up, the clutter of civilization giving way to open land, vast and endless. The air grows heavier, thick with the scent of damp earth and wildflowers, a brief reprieve, a moment of peace. But the silence is misleading. Ahead, the trees change. Their leaves, once vibrant and full of life, have begun to turn. Shades of gold and amber cling to their branches, a reminder that time is always moving, seasons forever shifting. A forest in transition, caught between life and decay. The wind snakes through the branches, rattling the leaves like whispers of unseen forces lurking just beyond the reach of light. Then, a tunnel appears. A passage carved through stone, its mouth yawning wide, swallowing the road whole. Darkness waits within. The air inside is thick, heavy, pressing against the walls like a trapped breath. The sound of footsteps, muffled yet persistent, echoes endlessly. The tunnel is brief, a mere moment in time, yet it stretches impossibly long. Each step forward feels like wading through the unknown. And just as suddenly as it began, the darkness spits us out. A new town lies ahead, smaller, quieter, its homes scattered like forgotten relics of an older era. Life moves slower here, windows reflect the fading light, curtains sway in the breeze, but the streets remain mostly empty. The weight of isolation hangs heavy in the air, a stark contrast to the vibrant streets we left behind. And then, just as quickly, the town is gone. The road stretches forward once more, flanked by open fields and endless sky. As the road twists and turns, the once gentle breeze stiffens into an ominous wind. The sky darkens, storm clouds billowing in from the horizon. Raindrops begin to speckle the windshield, light at first, then heavier, drumming against the roof in a steady rhythm. The scent of rain-soaked earth fills the air, mingling with the distant electricity crackling in the sky. A road sign flashes by, its paint worn and edges rusted. The name of the next town is nearly illegible, letters faded by years of exposure. And yet, something about it feels unsettling, as if the name had been whispered in forgotten nightmares. The headlights cut through the growing darkness, illuminating the road ahead, now slick with rain. Shadows shift and stretch, flickering at the edges of vision, their forms darting just beyond recognition. The trees lining the road grow denser, their branches clawing at the sky. The wind howls through the canopy, an unearthly wail that seems to carry voices too faint to decipher, yet impossible to ignore. The road narrows, the world feels smaller, closing in as if something unseen watches from the thick underbrush. Then, suddenly, the road dips, a sharp descent, the car lurching as it follows the curve. At the bottom of the hill, nestled between the darkened trees, stands an old, abandoned gas station. Its windows are shattered, its sign hanging askew, swinging in the wind with a metallic groan. The dim glow of a flickering bulb barely illuminates the rusted pumps. It shouldn't be here. The map had shown nothing, no sign of civilization for miles. A single light remains on inside the station. Swaying with the wind, a shadow moves behind the glass. The headlights flicker as they cut through the thickening mist. The road is barely visible now, swallowed by a swirling fog that clings to the ground like a living thing. Each passing second feels stretched, distorted, as if time itself has slowed. The gas station stands silent, its single flickering bulb casting long, erratic shadows against the pavement. A figure moves inside, a blur at first, then more defined. Someone or something stands just behind the shattered window, motionless, watching. The silhouette is tall, unnaturally still, its head tilted at an unnatural angle. A shiver runs down the spine, an instinctive warning to turn back, but there is no turning back. The car engine sputters, a cough, then silence. The headlights dim and die, darkness engulfs everything. The air is thick with the scent of damp earth and rusted metal. The only sound is the wind, whispering through the skeletal remains of trees that loom like silent sentinels. A distant transmission, broken words. Unintelligible, yet frantic, a warning, perhaps a plea. The air grows heavier, pressing against the skin, suffocating. The figure behind the window has disappeared, gone without a sound. But the footsteps remain, circling the vehicle now, just beyond the veil of mist. A sharp knock on the window, once, twice, then silence. The path ahead is swallowed in darkness, the road is gone. Only the station remains, its doorway yawning open, inviting, waiting. The choice is clear, stay in the suffocating stillness of the car, or step out, into whatever waits beyond the threshold. Awareness returns in fragments, a damp, musty scent. The feel of cold concrete beneath trembling fingers. A pressure in the skull, dull, throbbing. The air is thick, almost stagnant, carrying the weight of something unseen. The darkness is absolute. A single bulb sputters to life overhead, swinging, casting erratic shadows that twist and distort. The room is small. Unfinished walls, pipes running along the ceiling, moisture dripping in steady intervals from somewhere unseen. A metal table stands at the center, rusted, stained. Chains dangle from the walls, their ends broken, twisted. The air is colder now, the silence oppressive. The town square opens before us, a quiet hub surrounded by dimly lit shops and restaurants. A single streetlight flickers, casting erratic shadows against the cobblestone. Here, life moves on, but something lingers in the periphery, unseen yet ever present. A weight in the air. A figure steps forward, its face obscured by shadow. The silhouette is familiar to familiar. An unsettling recognition creeps in, a memory just out of reach. The figure tilts its head, studying, assessing. Then finally, a voice slow, deliberate, void of emotion. You shouldn't have come here. The door behind slams shut. A scraping sound, metal dragging against concrete. The figure moves closer, slow, deliberate. The breath catches in the throat, the body tenses. Every muscle screams to move, to flee, but there is nowhere to go. Then the clinking of metal. A cold sensation against the wrist, a restraint snapping shut. A narrow passage, wedged between two buildings, barely wide enough for a single person. The walls loom high, cracked and weathered by time. A faint glow flickers at its end, just beyond sight. The murmur grows louder, voices or something else? The wind, the pulse quickens, A decision must be made. A step forward, the alley breathes, the temperature dropping, the air thick with something ancient, something waiting. Another step, the glow shifts, flickers as if aware of our presence. And then an invitation, the door, barely visible at the end of the alley, opens wider. The darkness beyond it is absolute, swallowing all light. The murmur ceases, silence. The town continues beyond, unaware of the choice before us, enter or retreat. And then an invitation, the door, barely visible at the end of the alley, opens wider. The darkness beyond it is absolute, swallowing all light. The murmur ceases, silence.